I have a little rad roller, but a tennis ball would work, lacrosse ball. I have a lighter resistance band, long resistance band. One with handles would also work. You'll just have to use it a little differently. And then we will be on our knees. So a blanket if you need that for your knees. But we are going to start lying face down. Actually, we're going to start with the blocks and then we'll go face down. So we're going to start lying on our backs. And tonight we are working on hip extension. So taking our hip behind or a knee behind our hip. So we're going to start first with one block. Lift your hips and prop your block underneath your hip. And then once that feels comfortable, you're going to take the second block. Now walk your feet a little closer to your hips, lift up again. You might have to lift up onto your toes, and you might have to adjust your blocks up a little bit. You want to make sure that it's supporting your pelvis, not your spine. So it's on the hip portion of your the back of your body, not your spine. And then bend your right knee and grab it with both hands in front of the shin. And let your left leg go long. And we're just going to hang out here for a while. So first things first, check to make sure that your right or your left heel is not touching the ground. So if you drop the heel and it touches the ground, pull your right knee closer to you. And what's happening when I pull my knee closer to my chest or my shoulder is that the back of my ribs start to move towards the floor, and my foot lifts off the ground. And at first this might feel a little scary, but we're just going to let our leg hang. And the intention here is to create a little bit more space on the front of your hip, in that hip flexor region. And start to tune in with your breath. So inhaling deeply into your lungs. And then as you exhale, you can either exhale out through your nose, or if you prefer, you can exhale through your sigh or blow out. But make your exhale about twice as long as your inhale. And as you tune into your breath, start to notice any tension that you might be holding. Your body might feel a little scared or nervous in this position. So notice if you feel tension in the front or the back of your hip, and just explore what it would feel like to let that tension go. You might feel it in your core, in your back. And again, what would it feel like to let that excess, unnecessary tension go? And as you hang out here, do you feel that your heel is getting close to the floor again? Maybe you try guiding your knee, your right knee, closer to your shoulder again. And just start to notice all the parts where you feel tightness. I feel a little bit in my inner thigh, my groin area. And I'm not pushing my left leg towards the ground, but I am seeing what it would feel like to let that tension go as I exhale. Let's like 2 or 3 more breaths in this position. And then bend your left knee, bring the foot down to the ground, release your right foot to the ground. Make any adjustments that you might need with the blocks to be a little bit more comfortable as we repeat the same process on the second side. So bend your left knee, wrap your fingers around the front of your shin, right below your knee. And then start to stretch the right leg long and start to pull your left knee towards your left shoulder, allowing the back of your rib cage to move towards the floor. It won't touch the floor, but instead of arching our back, last week we worked on spinal extension. We do have some spinal extension in here, but we're not focusing on that. We're trying to allow this right foot to lift off the ground without physically lifting it off the ground. So it's kind of hanging. And if you allow it to hang completely, would it touch the floor? And if that's the case, pull the left knee towards your shoulder more to allow it to hang. And once you're in a relatively comfortable position, I know comfortable is a strong word in this position. So relatively comfortable position, start to tune into your breath. Inhaling deep into your lungs and exhaling, trying to stretch the exhale out twice as long as your inhale. Noticing, do you feel the tension in the same places? Is your body able to relax into this position as much as possible? And as you're able to relax, do you feel the heel get closer to the floor? And if it lands on the floor, start to draw the left knee towards your shoulder more. Keeping that nice long exhalation. Wherever you feel yourself tightening or gripping or holding, can you use your exhalations to encourage any kind of release, any kind of softening? Just a couple of more breaths in this position. And bend your right knee, bring the foot to the ground, release the left foot to the ground, lift the hips off, release one block. Move the pelvis down to that lower block, draw both knees in, and kind of just shift a little side to side. Not a lot, but just enough. And feel the block kind of massage into your muscles at the top of your pelvis, not in your low back. We're still not in the low back. And release both feet to the ground, lift the hips, remove the second block. And then bring both feet to the floor in line with your sit bones or slightly wider than your sit bones. Start with the hands down beside your hips. Last week we used spinal segmentation to lift and lower the hips. We're going to do the same thing. So first start to tilt your pubic bone towards your navel, pushing your low back towards the floor. And then one vertebrae at a time, lift up into a bridge pose. And then as you exhale, one vertebrae at a time from the top between your shoulder blades and down through the low back. And then tilt the tailbone towards the floor, going into extension, and then repeat that. So each exhalation, you're rolling the spine out, down onto the floor, coming back onto your back. Getting that little tilt of your tailbone towards the floor and then tucking the tailbone, inhaling to lift one vertebrae at a time off the floor. And you can go whatever pace works for you, but use your breath as a guide. So however long you can extend your exhale, try to take that long to bring the spine back down to the floor. And however long you can extend your inhale, try to take that long to peel the spine off the floor. We're going to do this 3 more times. We're going to add the arms. So as you inhale and lift the hips, lift the arms up over your head, bringing them towards the floor over your head. And then as you exhale, let them come back down beside your hips. 2 more times with the arms. Unless that's too much. If you need the hands beside your body to help come into that extension and help lower the spine and the hips back down, feel free to just leave the hands where they were. Good. Hug both knees in towards your chest. When you're done, then we're going to roll over onto our bellies for a little exploration of movement. You're going to stack your hands one on top of the other and then rest your forehead on the floor or on your hands, but you might want to watch what we're doing first. So we're going to go one leg. It's going to kind of frog out to the side. And then you're going to bring it back to where it was, and you're going to stretch it over and tap the left side of your mat. So we'll do the right leg 4 to 6 times. So bend your right knee, point the toe up towards the ceiling, and frog the knee out to the side. So just glide it on the floor out to the side. Toe towards the sky, bring it back to the mat. As soon as it touches the mat, reach that foot over to the left side of your mat like a scorpion tail, and then roll back down onto your hip, the front of your hip. Take the knee out to the side, let the toe touch the ground. As you take the knee back towards the mat, toe towards the sky, then lift the whole leg and hip and tap the left side of your mat. Few more times like that on your own. So really reaching with the toe, lifting the knee, lifting the pelvis, tap that scorpion tail. Slowly coming back to the front of your hip, front of your thigh for 2 more rounds. Just kind of allowing this movement to become more in its own form in your own body, so more somatic. So kind of feel into what feels good. And if there's something that feels stuck, you can play with that movement a little bit. And then roll back onto your body. Kick your right leg straight. Bend your left knee, point the toe up towards the sky. Frog the left knee out to the side. Let it kind of, I have to move towards the side so that I can let it slide on the floor. And then as you bring it back, reach the left leg over to the right side of your mat, tap the floor, roll back onto your belly. Knee to frog. Toe comes up as you bring it back, and then the whole leg goes, the whole hip goes to tap the foot. 3 more times, kind of moving at your own pace, your own rhythm. Giving your body what it craves in this movement. We so rarely concentrate on reaching our leg behind us. And for forward movement, we actually need better extension. And right now, we are using the spine, because the spine does help with that. But as we move through the class, we'll limit both. And go ahead and roll back onto your belly. Kick both legs long and shift your hips side to side. Good. We're going to come back onto our backs. At this time, we're going to do bridge pose with the resistance band. If you like to have something under your head, you can go ahead and get your blanket kind of in how you will have it for your knee later, and just prop your head up. Not your head too high, but a little lift under your head can be comfortable. And then you're going to take, if you have handles on your resistance band, they're going to go around the arches of your foot. But if you have a resistance band like mine, you're going to take one end of each loop and place it around the arch of each foot. And then you're going to take the other end of the resistance band and bring it to the tops of your thighs until you lie down. And then once you're lying on your back, you're going to move the resistance band into the hip creases. So feet are about hip distance apart. You can have your head on the floor or on the blanket, hands down beside your hips. Now we have some resistance. So we're doing hip bridges, but it's more like a hip thrust. So this time we're going to move with the exhale. So as you exhale, where you feel the band in the creases of your hips, you're going to press your creases up into the bands and come down. So exhale, press up. Inhale, lower down. So we're going to do 5 like this. 2, 1. Then we're going to stay high and we're just going to pulse. So lower about 1/3 to 1/2, and then push right back up into the band. And we're going to do this for 10. And so we've probably done about 5. So we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold at the top and just hold. You might do some micro pulses at that level. And then you're going to lower. Keep the bands on your feet and just pull your knees in towards your chest. You can rock a little bit if that feels good. So we're going to repeat this, but this time we're going to do one-legged hip thrusts. So we'll start with the right foot remaining on the floor and left knee pulling in towards your chest. You can always revert back to both feet on the floor if this becomes too challenging. But what we are looking for is that the pelvis lifts at the same time. So often when we go to one leg, one hip will kind of fall towards the floor. So keep the front of your pelvis level. The band there as feedback helps. So keep left knee in towards your chest. Press through your right foot. Lift and lower for 5, 4, 3, 2. Notice your hips. Is that left hip lifting as high as the right? Lower the left foot and lift the right knee towards your chest. Start to press a little heavier through your left foot. Band, lift up into it with your exhale. So we're lifting for 5. And notice if there's a difference. I notice a huge difference side to side. So just notice what it is and notice how you have to adjust. Keep those hips lifting at the same height. Good. One more. Awesome. So we're going to keep the band there if you can. Roll over to the side. If you need to take the band off to move, you can do that. But now we're coming into a quadruped position. Both toes are on the ground. You can lower down to your forearms. You could also lower down to elbows on flat blocks if being on your hands is too much for your wrists. So just know that's an option. Keep the left toe tucked under and start to lift and lower your right knee. So as you're lifting and lowering, this is actually an assist. But what we want to avoid is the lean into the left hip. So allow your pelvis to continue to face straight down as you lift and lower your right knee off the floor. Lift the right leg and now start to straighten and bend the right leg. We're going for 3 more. 2, and if the band comes off that leg, it's okay. It's going to eventually anyway. And stay lifted, and then lift and lower the leg. So right now, I just have it wrapped around my left thigh. It's come off my right thigh, and that's kind of what I want it to do. We're going to keep the band between your thighs and step your left leg forward. And as you do, you can take the band off your left foot. And it's between my thighs. And right now I'm holding it in both hands. If you need the block underneath or the blanket underneath your knee, by all means, take that option. And then take the blocks out in front of your left foot. So we're going to bring both hands onto our blocks. And you're going to lift your right knee off the floor. And the band's going to stretch. I have the band wrapped around my right wrist. The band's going to stay around the arch of my right foot. And I'm going to lift all the way up into a standing position and grab the band with both hands. So I'm holding it with both hands out in front of me. And then continue to pull tension out in front of you as you bend your right knee low. So it's kind of parallel to the ground. And then as if you're pressing the arch into the band, you're just going to pump your heel towards the ground and bend the knee. My front knee is staying bent. And I've kind of walked my hands back, because more of what I'm looking for is, can I push the arch into the band to kind of get that extension of my back hip. Lean forward slightly and bring the right foot beside the left foot. We're going to start to step forward and back with the right foot. So holding tension on the band, you're going to step and then stand. Step, both knees bend, and stand. Step, stand. 3 more. So each time we do this, or we're making it a progression. So after this, we'll make another progression. You have the option to go back to something we've done. So this time, step back, stay back. Grab the band in your right hand. Straighten your right leg. Left knee stays bent. Hinge forward. Steady the outside of your left hip. If you like your hand out there, you can use your hand, but now you're just going to lift and lower the right leg off the ground. So the only thing that's moving in this is your back leg. So the front knee stays over, the front heel, the left hip stays hugged in, and I'm staying leaning forward. Good. Come up. We're We're going to slowly make our way back to our knees. And wrap the band around both feet. Bring it into your hip crease again and wrap it around your other foot. Take your knees about hip distance apart, and the band is in your hip crease. And my toes are tucked under, but you can also have them flat. It's harder to keep them on your feet if your feet are flat. And we're gonna lower our hips back towards our heels and then thrust the hips forward. So kind of just like we did on bridge pose. And you can go back to bridge pose if this is not comfortable. But we're leading by thrusting the hips where the band crosses in your hip crease. And do 4 more. 3, 2, 1. Stay upright. Bring your arms out in front of you. Keep moving your pelvis into the band. Lean back. Shift forward. Lean back. Shift forward. So as you're leaning back, keep pushing the hips into the band. And as you come forward, thrust the hips into the band. 1 more. Good. Now we'll repeat all that on the other leg. So first come down to either hands and knees or elbows on the block. So whichever one is more comfortable for you. Right knee stays on the ground, toe stays tucked. First, we use the band as an assist. So this helps to kind of keep this right hip locked in place as you lift and lower the left knee away from the ground. And the band on the outside of your left hip helps you feel what it feels like to keep this pelvis in neutral. And then you can lift and straighten. Kind of a donkey kick into the band. And then straighten the leg, let it kind of come off the left side of your hip, and then lift and lower from here. You're lifting straight up and down. Bring both knees to the ground, letting the band go between your knees. And as you bring your right foot forward, you can take the band off of your right foot. So the band is between your thighs. Am I frozen? So we're in this position. You like those hip lifts, hip extension. So the band is still wrapped around my left foot. I've taken it off my right foot. And bring the blocks on either side of your right foot or slightly in front of your right foot. So with the left toes still tucked under, wrap the band around your left wrist as you bring the hand to the block. Right foot is up between the blocks, and you're just going to lift and lower the left knee off the ground. Where you feel the band in the arch of the foot, press your foot into the band. So this is going to encourage more of that full extension throughout the entire leg and a bit of dorsiflexion. And then keep both legs lifted and slowly come up to stand. Now I'm holding tension on the band. However, I need to create tension on the band. I'm going to bend both knees. Right knee stays bent. We're doing that same thing in this position. So I'm wrapping where my heel connects to the band. I'm trying to push that part of my foot towards the floor. So bending and straightening, and I'm not lowering and lifting my hips. My hips are staying low. I'm just bending and extending my knee. Yes. Few more here. And yes, this is also a workout on that front hip for sure. Step both feet up. Create tension on the band. And then you're going to step back and step up. Step back and step up. So as you step back, you're pushing the foot into the band to step the foot back. Few more. And then holding the band however you want, keep the foot behind you. This knee stays bent. This hip stays bent. And you're going to stay. The only thing that's moving now is that you're kicking the heel or the foot into the band to lift the back leg off the ground. And I feel way more work in my right hip than I do the back leg. But because we're using the band as feedback to move that back hip into extension, we're helping to lock the pelvis in neutral. Do maybe two more. And then we'll go a little bit into hip flexion. So take your blocks to the long edge of your mat. Step your feet wide. Feet are parallel, toes pointing towards the long edge of your mat. Bend your knees and bring your hands to your blocks. Bend your knees deep and then move towards straightening your legs. Bend deep, move towards straightening your legs. So just do that a few times. As if you were going to sit the chair or your bottom on a chair kind of towards the back long edge of your mat. So reach the hips back and bend the knees out. And then stay low. Straighten your left leg, shift your hips to the right. Stay low as you go to the other side. So instead of lifting the hips to either side, to get to either side, just shift down the middle. Good. Bring both legs as straight as comfortable for you, and maybe bring your elbows down to the block. Let your head hang. Good. Draw your hands back up to your blocks. And then one by one, bring your knees down to the mat. And we're going to move to our ball. So the ball is going to go behind your right knee. You're going to start lying on your belly. Stack your forehead either on your forearms or on your blanket. Left leg is straight. Bend your knee. If the ball is not already behind your knee, bring the ball behind your knee. And you're not squeezing hard to begin with. We're going to move into this slowly to minimize how much cramping we experience in our hamstrings. So just kind of feel the calf muscle and the hamstring muscle cradle the ball. Start to point and flex your ankle. Roll your ankle 3 times in one direction. And then roll your ankle 3 times in the other direction. Come back to toes pointing up towards the sky. Press the left foot, thigh, and hip point towards the floor. Kick your right heel a little closer to your hip, so squeeze the ball a little harder. And then try lifting the right knee off the ground. And then try bringing the front of your right hip point towards the floor. Then lift and lower your right knee off the ground. You're getting that little pulse of right knee on and off the ground, pressing the front of the right hip point towards the floor. It might not be on the floor. You might be experiencing some hamstring cramping. That is normal with this. You can take a break and come back to it. You can slow it down. You cannot squeeze as hard. Take a break. Keep the ball where it is and take the knee back out to the side like that frog. And then take it back and then scorpion tail it. Roll back onto your belly. Take the knee out to the side. Bring it back in. Once it's in the center, reach the right toe to tap the left side of the mat. Good. One more like that. Roll back to your belly. Take the knee out to the side. Roll it back in. Lift the knee and then reach the foot towards the left side of your mat. Good. Roll back to your belly. Bring your hands underneath your chest and press up to hands and knees. Again, if you need to be on your elbows, not on your wrist, you can take the elbows to a block. We still have the block behind our right thigh. This time, flex your ankle, keeping the knee close to your left leg. Go forward and back. We're minimizing how much, actually, let's use our spine first. So as you bend your knee towards your chest, round your head towards your knee. And as you lift the toe up towards the sky, lift the head. So let the spine move. Notice the range of motion that you have when you let your spine move. You could almost imagine that your head and toe could touch. Some people can do that. I'm nowhere near that. But you can imagine it. So notice how much range you can get when you have your spine moving, and then keep your spine still and just move your hip through flexion and extension. Bring the knee forward, take the knee out to the side, and draw a circle 3 times in one direction. And then take it back, out, and in 3 times in that direction. Minimizing how much the left hip moves. Good. Remove the ball. Take your left leg forward and reach your right leg back. Bring your elbows down to the floor like pigeon pose. And we're going to prop, I think facing this way will show you the best. We're going to prop a block under your left hip. So it can be at the lowest level or it can be at that second level. Tuck your right toes under and lift the knee off the ground. You can be on hands or elbows, it doesn't really matter. Let the knee drop, bend the knee. Keep the toes tucked. Toes down, lift the right knee. Let the knee drop, bend the right knee. Keep the toes tucked. Drop the toes, lift the knee off the floor. One more time, drop the knee, bend the knee. Drop the knee to the floor, or drop the toes to the floor. Come up onto your hands. No, stay down on your elbows. Point your toes. Lift the knee. Maybe lift the leg. And you may have to remove the block to get that to happen. Nope, the block helps. You might have to lift the block higher. There we go. So lifting up onto your hands, but the elbows bent is the position that kind of allows that to happen. But that's hamstring strength, that's hamstring extension, hip extension. So coming up and lifting and lowering the back leg off the ground. It's hard, so if you can't do it, for another day. Good. Remove the block. We're going to stay on our right knee and bring the left knee forward. You're going to take your block with you, but you're just going to hold it in your hand for now. Tuck the back toes under. Lift off the ground. We did this with a band the last time, but we're going to lower into a low lunge. And then without lifting and lowering the hip, just bend and straighten the knee. So drive the knee forward, reach the thigh back. Step forward. Have a wall close by if balance is an issue with you. So stand next to a wall. You're going to balance on your left foot. Bring the ball behind your right knee. And we're going to go to flexion. So bring the knee forward, bend, and lift the leg behind you. Bring it forward and through to hip flexion. Bend the left knee, knees together, then tilt. Lift the right foot behind you. 3 more of those. As you come back to center, bend the left knee, then tilt to lift the right leg back. 2 more. Last one. Bring the knee forward, remove the block or the ball. Bring both arms over your head. Bend the knees as you fold into a forward fold. Hands to the floor or blocks. Bend and straighten both knees. And just notice the difference between your right and left, back of the leg and hip. We just worked the right hamstring and glutes pretty intensely. So we spent a lot of time strengthening the right side. But if you're like me, you may feel that even though we've spent all that time strengthening the right side, it's the side that actually at this point in time feels on my body like it has a little bit more space in it. Good. So we're going to come all the way back down onto our bellies. So have the blanket under your head if you want that. Have it close by if you want it for your knee. Or yeah, when we get to our knees, you want it for your knees. We're going to take the ball and place it behind our left knee now. So first, just lightly grip the ball between your calf muscle and your hamstring. Start to point and flex your left ankle. And then make circles with your ankle in one direction a few times. And then in the opposite direction a few times. And then point your toes up. Maybe squeeze the ball a little harder, but go slow. And then start to press the front of your right foot into the floor, the right thigh into the floor, and the right hip into the floor. Then if you can, lift your left knee off the ground and reach the left hip point towards the ground, and then lower. And again, if you get a hamstring cramp, try pointing and flexing your foot a few times before you let it go completely. Cramping hurts. It does hurt, but it doesn't mean anything's wrong. So if you can move slow and breathe and just soften, then you can come back to the lifting and lowering of the knee. But as you're lifting and lowering the knee, try to keep the left hip point moving towards the floor. And my knee is not lifting a whole lot. One more. And then let the left ankle drop towards your right thigh. Slide the left knee out to frog. Bring it back in. And then squeeze the ball and reach the left foot over to the right side of your mat. So we'll do 5 of these. Take it out to the side. Slide it back into center and then reach. You're getting a little bit of hip flexion, abduction, adduction, but the main focus is that extension. Doing one more. Good. Go ahead and flex the ankle. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Press up to hands and knees. We still have the block, or not the block, the ball behind our left knee. Steady the right hip and just start to move through flexion and extension of the spine as you move the hip also through flexion and extension. So let the spine round as you take knee to head, and let the spine arch as you take heel and head away from each other. And then once you feel how the spine creates more movement, we're going to take the spine out of it and just move the hip. So swinging the knee as far forward as it can go without the spine moving, and lifting the knee as high as you can without the spine arching more. And then make 3 circles in one direction. And 3 circles in the opposite direction. Good. We're going to remain on our left knee. Remove the block or the ball. Bring the blocks forward. And we're going to come into that pigeon position. So your right leg comes forward. Take the block underneath your right hip. And either elbows to your block, elbows to the floor, or maybe hands to the floor. Tuck your left toes under. Lift the knee off the floor. So straighten the left leg. Release the knee to the floor and then kick the heel to the hip. Toes to the ground, lift the knee off the floor. Knee to the ground, kick the heel to the hip. Do this a few more times. So we're kind of flossing the muscles and the nerves on the back of your leg. So we're not over efforting anything here. We're more just taking this moment to kind of release the tension that we've built in the hamstring and hips. Take the leg long. Come up onto your hands, but bend your elbows. So you can either continue to do what we have been doing. I find it beneficial to lift the block up a level, so I'm a little propped higher. And then I'm going to lean as far forward as I can. And the first few are really hard. But after a few, I'm able to lift the back leg off the floor. It's harder on this side. Definitely a lot harder for me on one side than the other side. Good. Release the knee to the ground. Remove the block and bring your right leg forward. Have the block back in, or the ball back in your hand. Too many bees in this world of props. Blanket, block, balls, belts. All right, so tuck your left toe under. Lean forward and stand. And then bend both knees. We're going to straighten and bend the left knee without allowing the hips to lower and raise. So we're just pumping that back heel towards and away from the floor to bend and straighten the left knee. Working those muscles in extension. Good. Step forward. And this is where we need the wall. So ball behind your left knee. You can balance on your right foot, or you can use the wall beside you. Take the ball behind your left knee. Move the knee out in front of you, so hip inflection. Bend both knees like a chair pose. And then extend the leg behind you as you tilt forward. So we're going to do 5 of these. Moving at your own pace. I have my ankle flexed because I feel like it helps me. But you may find that pointing your toe helps you. So whatever you prefer. Good. Remove the ball. Take your feet mat distance apart. Blocks out in front of you. Inhale, reach your arms up. Bend your knees, bring your hands to the blocks, and then bend and straighten your knees. And kind of notice. How do those hammies feel? How do the backs of the legs feel? How do the hips feel? Good. Remove the blocks and come to the front of your mat. Start with your feet about hip distance apart. We're going to take this into a short little flow of all the things in a yoga class that you might see, not all of them, but some of the things that you might see that take some hip extension. So balance on your right foot, but balance on your left foot. We just did the right. Grab the front of your foot. If you need a wall, you can have a wall close by. Start to push or kick the front of your foot into your hand. So we have hip extension. And the more you kick, you might feel more of a lift. Then bring it back in. Pull the heel as close to your hip as you can. Whatever muscles you need to keep your foot there, engage them and let your hands go. So keep kicking your heel towards your hip. Slow bend of your left knee, step back. Inhale, bring the arms over your head. Bend the knee to hover. One time, straighten the leg. Tilt forward, reach your hands back. Shift forward, straighten both your left leg and your right leg. Bend the left knee, bring the right foot back down to the ground. Slowly bend the right knee until the right knee comes to the ground. If you need a blanket under your knee, do that. Bring your right hand in front of your right hip and move your pocket into your hand. And pull your left heel back. So it's almost like the right knee is driving forward and the left heel is pulling back. Pause here. Keep the hand on the pocket. Shift forward, but don't let your pelvis, your butt stick out. So only shift as far forward as you can keep your hand on your pocket. Elbow on your left knee. Tuck your right toes under, kick your heel to your hip, reach back, grab your foot. Pull it towards your hip. Whatever muscles you need to keep it there, engage them. Let go of the right hand and stretch it forward. Bring both hands on either side of your left foot. Tuck your right toe under. Step back into downward facing dog. Okay, keep your weight on your left foot. Lift your right leg slowly up. Bring both feet back down. Walk your hands towards your feet. Bend your knees and roll up. Good. Walk to the front of your mat. So second side. If you need a wall for balance, grab a wall for balance. Balancing on your right foot, kick your left foot into your hand. Start to push, kick your right foot into your hand. Feel the knee, left knee move behind the right knee. Keep kicking. Let that left leg lift. Release, step back. Low bend. Keep the right hip down, straighten the left leg. Hinge forward, reach your arms back. Step up slightly, and then straighten both legs, lifting the left leg off the ground. Bend, come back down to your foot. Left knee bends. Slow release to your left knee. Bring your elbow onto your right, or first, come upright, left hand on your hip, push the pocket into your hand, and just engage the back line. So squeeze your glutes, start to pull your right heel towards your left knee, and push your left knee towards the front of your mat. Feel your glutes engage. Start to shift forward without losing that openness on the front of your left hip. And then elbow to your knee, kick, catch. Pull the heel as close to your hip as you can. Engage whatever muscles you need to stay there and let your foot go. Release the foot to the ground. Hands on either side of your right foot. Lift your left knee. Step your right leg beside your left, coming into down dog. Shift all your weight onto your right foot and slowly lift your left leg. And release the left foot to the ground. Release both knees to the ground. Toes touch, knees wide. Let the hips move back towards your heels. Release your forehead to the ground. And just shift your hips side to side. Letting any tension that you might have in your hips or your low back release. And as you're ready, walk your hands towards your knees. Come to sit. So, hip extension. We have explored lots of different ways. We've explored it with knees bent. We've explored it with legs straight. We've explored it standing, on our backs, on our knees, all the things. So hopefully you have a deeper connection to hip extension, what that consists of, and a little bit more awareness on how to find it.